So the first thing you want to do when you turn on your Maya, you want to start modeling, is to click on the new, because obviously it's a new project you're starting out. But for me, I already have a project here, but for the sake of and the purpose of those that um, don't understand how to start, I'm just going to start with the new file. So I'll click on new. So every time you do that, it will always bring up this window to ask if you want to save or don't save. But because I was not doing anything here, I'll just click on don't save so you can open up a new scene. So right now I have a scene, an empty scene here, right? So the first thing I want to do is to create a project window, because as you can see, this is a file that is not saved, right? And I have not done anything in the scene currently. So I'll go to file, I'll go to project window. So this project window we're going to be creating is what you're going to use as your folder for the beginning and the ending of this course. So you don't have to create another folder when you want to maybe create a different model or start animating. You just work with this same project folder. So I already have a project folder called ISM 312, and it's saved in a drive, in my drive called Maya project. But for you, you want to click on new and you know give your project a name, something like um, something like this, for example, and then you give it you pick the folder where you want it to be, and you can search by clicking on this box, and then you pick a location for the project where you want it saved, and automatically when you click on accept, this folder is going to be created. So I'm just going to show you mine. I'm just going to show you my Maya project ISM312. So automatically it creates this folder for you, and you find the workspace script here automatically. So you know this is what Maya has created for you. Though most of the folders here, you might not be using them because this is not an advanced course, but few of the folders will be useful to us, and Maya would understand that this folder is for would understand the use of each folder. So I'll go back to Maya. So since I have a project folder already, which I had already created, and if you had already created a folder too, you want to go to File, go to Set Project. So now you want to set the project to that folder. You want to tell Maya that is the folder you want to keep working with. So I'll go to Set Project, and then I'll pick the folder, open it, and then I'll click on Set. So I have to open the project folder itself. And remember I said the moment you click on that folder, this is what Maya is looking for, the script. So if you don't have the script there, it's going to prompt you that that script is not there. But since I have the script there, once I click on set, it just sets to that folder, right? So how will I know that my project is set to that folder? Every time I try to open a new project, so if I say open, since I already have a project created, if I click on open, it takes me to that folder, and it just brings me to the folder automatically. So I already had the model I was working on, which is what I was working on the last time. So I'll just open it. For you, you might just be creating a new folder, a new project, and you have to save. So every time I even click on save, if I say save this, save this new folder, it just takes me to ISM 312, my folder, and the scenes folder. So the scenes folder is where I want to be saving my models. I can choose to create a folder here and call them models and put them there, but Maya will always bring me to scene folder. This folder here called scenes is where Maya would want to save models, right? There's also a folder called sound. Every time I include sound, Maya will bring it here. There's a folder called source images where my textures and materials will be. There's a movies folder where every time I play blast a shot, it goes here, and every time I render, it goes into the images folder, and for simulation, it goes into the cache folder. So like that. So Maya understands this thing and is going to automatically um, save your files and do all of the hard behind the scenes work for you. All right, so I'm just going to pull up my reference. As you can see, I'd already um, done the model. I was trying to record earlier today, but unfortunately, the video didn't go as planned. So this is me doing a new video. Okay, so I'll just keep this by the side. I'll turn it off. I'll hide it by clicking on H on my keyboard. So H is for hide and H is for unhide. H hide, H unhide. So later H or H on the keyboard is going to turn off. So this is what I had done before, but I'm just going to hide it and create a new one, right? So as I'm creating, I'm also going to be explaining some things that are relevant to that are relevant, or maybe just keep explaining few things as I use them, few of the tools that I've not mentioned or I've mentioned and not used, so you see what they do. So the first thing I want to do, this is just these are optional. The first thing I want to do, I want to change my viewport color from ACs to on-tone. I want to turn this on. It's called multi anti-aliasing. I want to turn it on. And I think for now, that's the only thing I want to do for the setup. And we'll see the others as we go. So I'll create a cube here. I'll create a cube. I want to scale the cube up. I want to scale to a reasonable size. There's no measurement for this, so you can just eyeball it to something that is that is okay for you. It doesn't have to be perfect. Alright, so I think this is okay. Let me see. Measure it with this. Let me bring this to the side. Like that. Let me bring this to the side. Alright. So I'll proceed. Um I'll proceed. The first thing I want to do is rename my cube, give it a name, and I'll call it calculator body. So calculator underscore body. So you want to always organize your stuff. Calculator underscore body. So I'll do something they call block out. So I'll try to block out my scene. Let me see if this thing is recording. Right. So I'll try to block out my objects to the shapes to where they are supposed to be before proceeding. So I'll split my screen into two. So right now I'm on wireframe mode here, and wireframe. So we have different frame mode. We have the wireframe, we have the shaded, and we have textured. So right now it's on wireframe, and this is why I can see it. Wireframe is just for you to see the object and what is behind the object. Shaded mode is when you have it the way it's looking right here, and textured is when you have the material on the object. Right now there's no material. This is a default material, so we don't need that. So you'll see me switching between wireframe and the shaded, right? And how you do that on your hotkey is by clicking on 4 and 5 on your keyboard. Okay, so the I want to block this out. So I'm going to duplicate my body. I'll duplicate it to create the buttons and just keep them by the side. Alright, so Control D, or you go to edit and duplicate. Control D here. So it duplicates that. I'm going to give this a name. I'll call it button 1. So just so since I have that, I'm going to pull it out and scale to a reasonable size. I'll scale to a reasonable size. Right, I'll match into the object. So it doesn't have to be perfect. I can scale this wireframe mode, scale this to here, and just put this by the side. I can also use this lines, the grid lines to measure. All right, so if this is what I want, it doesn't have to be perfect, but if this is what I'm looking for, okay, I can work with this. The next thing I want to do is to block out this, the division or the equal sign. So I'll duplicate Control D. I'll call this, it can be button 5. I'll take it to this side and I'll scale it to a good size. Scale to a good size. See, am I boiling it so it doesn't have to be perfect. Alright. So if this is fine, the reason why I'm not duplicating this yet is because I want to bevel it. So the next thing I want to do is I'll duplicate this, and okay, now I'm going to explain what this is. So this is what we call the channel box. This part here, I'm going to shift, it's called the channel box, and this is where you see the properties of your object, how they translate, how they scale, and how they rotate. So these are where the figures and the numbers change. So the more I keep moving this object on the x-axis, you can see how the x-axis, the figures on the x-axis is just changing. And the same thing, if I try to move it around on the x and the y-axis, you can see how that is moving around. So if I do that on the z-axis, the same thing. All right, so this is what the channel box is called, and this is where you see the translation and the movement of the object. Because I've scaled this object, you can see that it's scaled here. I can take this back to its default setup, which is bringing them back to a default number by using these tools here. So we have the center tool, we have the delete history, and we also have the freeze transformation. So we are going to see how this work out, how I'm going to use them on this object. Excuse me. So first thing I want to do is I want to rotate this object I want to rotate to a 90 degrees. So I'll go to rotate on the z-axis. So I can do this and try to match it up. But trust me, it's not going to be perfect, right? It's not going to be perfect. So instead of doing this, I can just come to the channel box and 90 degrees, and I have 90 degrees there, and bring it to where I want it to be and give it the size. So this is you can model a different way. You don't have to follow this what I'm doing right now, but this is me just blocking out the parts where I want this object to be, right? So it's easier for me to just go ahead to start modeling when I'm ready to model. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to create the symbols on each character. So I'm just going to duplicate this again, and okay, I've not done that. I'll Control Z, going to duplicate, Control D. So I'm going to call this symbol 1. So what I'll do is I'll hide this for now. I don't need it just now. So I want to block this one first. So the first thing I want to do is to bevel let me start with the body. So I'm going to bevel the body. So beveling is, so I can't see my mesh tools here, and the reason is because I have this on rendering. So you click on this drop down, go to modeling. So when you click on modeling, you see the mesh because we are modeling, right? So you go to edit mesh and bevel. So once I do that, my object is beveled, right? The body is beveled, but I still want to play around with the surface. So I bring the fraction to 3 and segments to 4, somewhere around 4. This is fine. It doesn't have to be so perfect, but this is okay. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is to bevel this. So I'm going to bevel to edit mesh and bevel. So the fraction for this might be different from the body. It doesn't have to, there's no preference to it, just whatever works. So I can do 2 or 3 is fine, and 4 is fine too. Okay, and once I have this, I'll go back to my object mode. So now I can start duplicating, right? So edit, duplicate. I have button, I call it button number 2. I save, and then I move it to the side like so. And now I can do the both button. I can shift, select button 1, select button 1, shift or control, select button 2 on the outliner here, or I can do select 1, shift, select 2, right? And duplicate, control D, and then I have 2 buttons. Then I bring them this way, right? And I can call this button 3 and this button 4, right? This is working smart and not working hard. I'll do the same thing for here. I'll bevel. You can still do this and duplicate just one instead of going through what I'm going through, but whatever works for you. I'll do the same thing here just for us to understand. That's why I'm doing it individually. So, alright, so now I have my object, right? But I noticed that I can still do better by scaling them up, or so I can just do this. Right, this is okay. So I'll go back to my objects mode. So say this is what I have currently now. How do I go from here? I noticed that there's a little tilt here. I can achieve that later, but let's just proceed first. So I'm going to hide this. This is the screen, so I'll call this screen. Okay. So I'm going to hide this H. So let's make the hole in the screen. Let's extrude. So before extruding, I want to separate, create a mesh, add a mesh, an edge loop on that part. So here I'm going to insert an edge loop. So an edge loop, see an edge loop as a rubber band holding a particular part. That's how you want to see an edge loop. And I'm going to show you why I call it that so you can better understand it. So there's what we call smooth and unsmooth in models. So right now, this model is unsmooth. So if I want to smooth this object, I'll click 3 on my number pad. If I click 3 on my number pad, you can see how this object, you can see the way it just changes. So this is on smooth 1 on the number pad, 3 smooth, 1 on smooth, 3 on smooth. So most of the time you want to have your object on smooth, which is 3. You want it to be on 3, which is this way. But um, it tries to shrink when you click on that. So you want the edge loop to hold things down. I'm going to proceed to extruding so you see what it looks like when it shrinks. So I'll go to face mode. I'll pick this face because that's what I want to extrude inward. So I want to create a hole, right? So I'll go to edit mesh and I'll go to extrude. So how you extrude is very simple. If you want to extrude inward, if you want to extrude out, you can just easily drag this and start extruding outward. It's going to create a new object for you. If you want to do that also, you can also just extrude inward this way and it's still going to be fine. But that is not what I want to do. And the reason is because I'm looking at my reference and I can see that there's more space on this part. The extrude is not just at the surface, and this is what I want to achieve. So I select this face, I go to extrude, I go to extrude, I pick the face, I go to edit mesh, extrude. Then I first, before doing anything, you want to click on this. So when you do this, it pops this middle button out. If you don't do this, you're not going to have this button. So once I click that, I have this button, and this is what I want to drag in. So I can have this shape, right? So I scaled inward just to have that shape. And now I can perfect it by maybe dragging the top and the side just to have a good shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. Then I have this shape. So I want to extrude inward now. So I go to edit mesh again and I extrude. And right now, instead of scaling, I just push it inward. And I can use my wireframe mode to see how it's looking, right? I can just push it inward. Doesn't have to be this way, just somewhere here is fine. Then I can go back to the shaded mode and see how it's looking. Go back to my object mode and well, it's not bad. All right, so but I notice now that I have to bevel this part because I just created a new shape out of that, right? So instead of beveling everything, I'll just pick the edges. So I'll go to edge mode. I'll pick this edge. I'll pick this edge. I'll pick this edge. And I'll pick this edge. So the 4 edges. And I go to mesh, edit mesh, and then bevel. So the same thing I've done. I'll just play around with the segments. See, I can use 2 and make more segments there. And go back to object mode. See how it's looking. It's fine. So I save. I keep saving my work. Alright, so it's okay and it's perfect. I'll bring back my screen and now I have to resize, put it to match my screen. Okay, this is not bad. All right, so what do I do next? So I want to tilt this part a little. So before that, I just want us to see what the smooth and unsmooth is like. Remember I said 3 on the keypad is for smooth and one is on smooth. So I'm just going to hide the screen again, and so we can see what is happening. So if I click on 3, you see you see the way it shrinks inward, right? So see edge loops as rubber band holding each part together. So I'm going to insert edge loop the way it is this way, so you see what that does. So I'll go to insert edge loop, and I want to insert edge loop on this part. I want to insert edge loop on this part. You see the way I'm inserting edge loop, just to, it's more like a rubber band holding each part together, and you can see how important edge loops are. So just hold this part, hold this part. So if I unsmooth, see what I've done? I'd added edge loops here, here, but I'm going to undo that because I think the one I added here, I shifted it to the side too much. So I'm just going to add it so I see what I'm doing. So I want one edge loop here. Better still, I split my screen, so it's better this way. One here, one here. I want one here. I want one here. I want one in the middle. I want one in the middle here. I want one here. And I want one here. Alright. Okay. So when I go to object mode, and I smooth, so it's not bad. It's not bad. So I bring up my screen, each, right? So you can do the same for the buttons too, but I just wanted to point that out. So I'm not going to be smoothing. I won't smooth those parts. So you see, if you smooth, if the edges are fine, then it's fine. But if it's not, just you just want to add more edge loops to hold it down, basically. So I'll save. The next thing I want to do is tilt it a little. So I'll split my screen again. Now I'll go to panel to change my view to the side, so I can tilt it this way without having issues. So I'll go to unsmooth. I'll go to edges, pick this edge, shift pick this edge so I can pick the boot edge, and I'll just shift it a little, just a little. I think this can be more. Alright, so since I've done that, I have to make this fit now. I have to tilt this a little. Let me see what is happening here. Okay. Well, doesn't have to be super perfect. I think it's okay this way. I have to turn this in so much. So I'm just going to bring this a little bit to the Okay, so save. So the next thing I want to start doing is to create the symbols, right? So I can group all of this and put them in, I can put all of this in a group. So I'll go to edit and group, Ctrl G. So I can give this a name called buttons. This is the screen, this is the body, and remember we created one for the symbol, right? So I'm going to bring this out, then start making the shapes. So nothing serious, nothing fancy. So we want to bevel this too. So edit mesh, bevel, the fraction can be 2, the segment can be 4. Right, so scale in. Okay. I can duplicate this and rotate this 90 degrees to the right side. Notice as I'm rotating it, you can see how I can't even find um, what figure is rotating. Though I can see that it's on the z-axis. I don't know why it's trying to. Though I can freeze the transformation to zero everything out and then start all over again. So it looks as though this is the new um, origin. So just 90 degrees for the plus sign. Okay, and I see that something is wrong, so I'm just going to delete that. Duplicate this again. So 90 degrees to the right hand side. That is a plus. So I'll combine this together, but before that, I'll duplicate this for the negative, duplicate this for division, and duplicate this for the multiplication. So this can be around 45 degrees. And I'll duplicate for 45 degrees by removing negative, and I think this should be okay. Still notice there's something wrong, so just zero this out. Zero this out. So I'll save. The next thing I want to do is the division here. I'll also duplicate this. Duplicate this rather. Going it here. Duplicate. Going it here. And go to the front view to see how it's looking. It's fine, and that is okay. So I want to make the circle here. I'm going to use this cylinder. Rotate on 90 degrees. I'll scale to the size I want. Frame by clicking on F. Scale. Scale. And bring it this way. So I can still bevel this, but before beveling it, what I want to do is I want to go to the properties here. I'll click on this drop down, and I want to add edges here. So I can do that from this input here. I can do that from this input. Just go to round cap, subdivision cap rather. I'll just bring it to somewhere around here, and then I can add edges to the body too. Subdivision height. I'll just go to wireframe so you see what is happening. Subdivision height, so just this is fine. Put shaded, and then I'll bevel. Right, I can just bevel the edges instead of beveling everything. Just double tap, double click on the loop. It's going to select the loop. Just select one and double click. It selects the loop. Right, so I'll just go to edit mesh and bevel. So it bevels just that edge. So I can play with the segments. Now go back to, and then I can smooth it out by clicking 3 and it smooths it out. So 3, then I can put it where I want it, tilt it a little so it matches, and then duplicate. Ctrl D, duplicate, and voila, I have my calculator complete. So the next thing you want to do is to start organizing you want to organize this so you don't have so much numbers here. So I'll do that by combining some of these objects. So for the division can be one, instead of having one cylinder, two cylinder, and then this symbol. I can just make everything to one. So I'll just select the 3 of them. I'll go to combine here. So there's a combine here, and you can see that when you go to mesh, combine. So I'll just click on combine. And when I do that, it's going to combine the 3 of them, but I still have the object here. I still have the folder. And if you delete this, you don't just delete this. So you want to delete the history. So you know I've worked with freeze transformation, which will freeze the transformation of the object, make it to look as though that's the initial point. Right now we are using this, which is delete history. So once I click on this, watch what happens here. So if I click on this, it makes the object into one. So whenever I click on this, it just picks one. And the reason why you have cylinder here is because that's the last object I picked. So you know I picked this, and then the last object. So it gives it that name. So I can call this division. I can just call this division. So that's what I'll do for these other objects too. Combine, delete history, and then give it a name. So I'll call this multiplication. You can just shorten the name, you don't have to give it a full name. So I'll do the same for this. Combine, delete history, and call it addition. And this is subtraction. I'll do the same for this. Combine, delete history, call it equal. Right, and this is the screen, this is the body. Right, so I didn't do the equal. I'll delete history. I didn't delete history for these guys. So let's delete history. This not delete, but just take it out myself. All right, so proceeding, so I can just select all of this and put them in a folder, group, and I'll call it symbols. So body, screen, right? I can also just select everything and put them in a folder, Control G, and call it calculator. Right, so you see now we have our calculator, right? So the next thing you want to do is to give it a color, the material. So we call it materials. So right now we are using Arnold for render. So there's a shader called it's called AI standard surface, and that is what we use for material in Arnold because we're using Arnold rendering engine. And with that, we are going to know what the property, the attribute editor is. So the attribute editor is used as a property panel for your model or your object. So whatever object I clicked on, right now it's on channel box. But if I go to attribute editor, that is where you see the properties of that particular object that is selected, right? So right now I have this, and we don't have a texture on it. Remember I said there's a texture. We have the shaded, the wireframe, and the texture. Right now we don't have a texture, so I'm going to start applying materials, the colors to the object. So I'm just going to bring this to the side here, and we start. So right now we have the default shader called Lambert. So if I right click by selecting an object, I scroll down. So there is assign new material, assign favorite material, assign existing material. So because we have a calculator that we've already created and we've created these materials, that is why we have these materials here. So I'm going to be creating a new material, and then from there I'll apply the other materials just to show you how you can create that. So you can create materials different ways. I can hold on this, right click, and just go to assign new material for that object, and it's going to prompt me to the shader, the assigned material. I click on shader, and then there's the AI standard surface here. This is good. You can choose to do it this way by just selecting. When you select, it brings you to this tab here. You want to rename, say, body. You can say body material or body color, like so. So we have the blue color. So the base color is where you choose the color. So I'll go to base, pick the color, and I'll look for something similar. So say I'll use this, or I can use the eyedropper to select and just pick something somewhere around there. I can play with this to get a darker color, a darker shade, or something a little bit closer to my reference. Alright, so after doing that, the next thing I want to do, and this is how I will create the materials for every other object, right? If I now go to assign, go to existing, so you can see now that I already have the body color here, or the body color here already created, and that's the same way I'm going to assign materials to the other object. I can also assign material by going to this part, by going here, click on this, so it's called hyper shade. So when I bring up the hyper shade, this is where you create your materials and your colors. So I can also just duplicate this color by clicking Ctrl D. It duplicates this color. I can give it a new name. I can call it symbol color, and then just change the color to whatever I want. And if I go here to assign a new material here, I can just right click and go to existing material. I'll just see symbol color here, and I can assign it. So it's very easy, and this is how I'm going to assign. So since I already have materials created, I'll just go ahead to to apply them. I can apply here and I can just go here also, bring it to the side and apply. Very simple. Select the object, right click on the material, hold it down, right click, and then you see assign material to selection. When I do that, I get that, and I can assign to multiple. So if I click on this, I can just assign once, assign once. I can assign the whites to multiple white material, and that's it. It's as simple as that. And you can delete whatever material you don't want by just delete on your keypad, and you can close down the hyper shade for now. And there you go. You have your object and you have the material. So this is the material. This is not a texture. This is a material. So even if I turn on the texture mode, it still will not bring anything. To just go back to default. So this is just a material, not a texture. But this is how you do it. As simple as that. So let me see what you can do. You can make yours better than mine. But this is how you do it.